Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to Photo Impact 10X. Today we're talking about 6 quick tips for a TACK SHARP image. Coming at you next. Number 1, choose your sharpest f-stop. Now this is a little subjective and I'll get to that piece, but hear me out first. All lenses have a sweet spot, and depending on the lens you're using, you'll be somewhere within f5.6 to f16 where that sweet spot is. And that comes, and I speak of that based on generally, all right? So if you want sharpness in your subject, your foreground, and your background, you're gonna have that little sweet spot. Now, I'm not excluding f4, f2.8, which are very creative ways of telling your story, and they have their own type of clarity and sharpness. But if you're looking for, let's say in our a landscape scenario, you're going to be somewhere in the f8, f11, f16 arena for your sharpest images, and that depends on your lens. So what I recommend is to take the lens that you're using or lenses and go through a series of tests with that on a static subject, and go through and start at, if you start at f4 or f2.8 and your fastest aperture, and work your way all the way up and compare those images to see exactly what is your sharpest images. And you'll see that you're going to be anywhere from f5.6 to f16, right? This lens here, this is a 105 or 24 to 105 L series Canon lens, and it's a 4.0. But its sweet spot is at f8. So from a general standpoint, right, subject, foreground, and background, my sharpest images are at like f8. On my 100mm macro, my sharpest images on that lens is 5.6. So I suggest that you go through, test your lenses, and see what lens and where your sweet spots are for your lenses. Every lens has them. Check it out, test it, and let's move on to the next one, single point of focus. Single point of focus, a lot of your focus systems today, you have either 9 to 45 focal points that you can use in your camera for selective focus. If you use a single point of those AF points, will help you get your TACK SHARP focus on your subject. If you're shooting wildlife or a model or a portrait kind of thing, you can use your single point of focus, and you can make their eyes the sharpest part of the image, which they should always be when you're doing portraits and or wildlife, except wildlife with antlers. Antlers are always the focus there. But the single point of focus, as opposed to having the whole frame and or selected zones for focus for your AF points. The third tip is your tripod. Tripod is everything. Eliminate all motion with your tripod. You lock it up on there, you're good to go. I suggest that you use a quality tripod. There's a lot of tripods out there that are of lesser quality, and they're very cheap, but lesser quality, and they can be disturbed and move around quite a bit with the slightest little movements, walking on a floor, wind, something of the sort. One of the tripods I love to use is a Manfrotto, and the legs, I can take the legs and spread them straight out vertically and lay that completely on the ground and get my lens right on the ground, the grass or whatever. But with that flexibility, if I'm on uneven ground, I can have two legs mounted in the dirt or ground or whatever, and have the other leg lifted up, pointing back and anchoring it on a rock, on a tree, on a wall, for all that extra support. So mount your camera on a good quality tripod. You won't regret it. It's an awesome way of getting a tack sharp image, and you can eliminate so much movement with it. Number 4 is a shutter release. A shutter release will remove any kind of movement from you, the photographer, pushing the shutter release button, bumping, the camera, whatever, any physical interaction that you have with the camera. Here's one of the shutter releases that I use, and it's called an interpolometer. And what that means is just a fancy word for that you can set it and program it to do many images over a period of time. Very good for time-lapse photography. If you're ever in a situation you need to do your own self-portrait, which is always really hard for a photographer because they never have anybody around them that may be able to do the quality work that they're looking for. If you use a shutter release like this, you could always do that too. And I'll link all the products that I talk about here in the description. And this one's from Newer, and it's very reasonable, works like a champ, and it's a fraction of the cost that Canon, Canon's OEM product. So using a shutter release, key to getting a tack sharp image. Number 5, mirror lockup. Every DSLR has a feature in its menu system where you can do what's called mirror lockup. When you're looking through the viewfinder and through your lens, the reason you can see in your viewfinder is that the image comes through your lens and it hits a mirror. That mirror reflects the image up into the viewfinder, and that's how you're able to look through your camera. Now, when you snap the shutter, the mirror pops up out of the way of the image sensor and then comes back down and closes. Now, when the mirror pops up, it creates shake, and it will create movement within your camera. So we use mirror lockup to help us with that tack sharp image. And what it will do, instead of hitting your shutter button one time, you'll click it once, you'll hear the mirror lock up. That did not take the picture yet. You'll hear the click, you'll hear the mirror lock up. And then in your viewfinder or on your live view, you'll not see any image. Your camera is not broke. Keep in mind, your camera's not broke. All right? When that mirror pops up out of the way, you're not able to view anything through your viewfinder or live view. So when you hit your shutter button the second time, it will expose that image to your sensor. So that will eliminate the mirror from lifting up out of the way of the sensor and creating bounce. Now, when we talk about from 1 through 5, we had, our f-stop. Number 2 was the single AF points. We're on a tripod, locked down tight on a tripod, using a shutter release, and now we are using mirror lockup. We took all of those steps to eliminate any kind of movement in our camera. So if you have a camera that does image stabilization on the lens or in the body, you have to turn that off, because what that does, in Canon it's called IS, image stabilization. And what it is a motor in there that's actually going back and forth looking for motion. Where do I eliminate motion? Where do I eliminate? Back and forth, back and forth. And if it cannot find anything, it keeps hunting and it keeps looking, and that will create motion in your image. When you are locked down on the tripod, you're using mirror lockup, you're using your shutter release, image stabilizer becomes your enemy at that point. All right, image stabilizer is great when you're handheld and you're doing stuff like that. It is a godsend for that. But in the scenario where we're trying to get a tack sharp image with a tripod, shutter release, mirror lockup, and all the tactics that we talked about, please shut off your image stabilizer, because it will hurt your image, not help it. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you for watching the video today. I'll link up any of the products that I talked about in tripods and the shutter release. Hey, thank you for watching, everybody, and please subscribe. Each week we'll be uploading new tutorials, how-tos, Lightroom, Photoshop, Premiere Pro tutorials. And do me a favor, in the comment section, write a little comment what you would like to learn, because I would like to cater to what your needs are. And I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video.